Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah. These are both Mike. So we're from the CREATE Lab, which is part of the Robotics Institute here at Carnegie Mellon. CREATE is actually an acronym. It stands for Community Robotics Education and Technology Empowerment. So we have about 30 people who work in our lab with us, anywhere from engineers to business people like myself, to artists to students. And a lot of our projects are either focused on education or environmental awareness. So what we're going to talk to you about today is environmental awareness and some of the projects that we have and how the Alexa can empower everybody to breathe easier. So I want to start with talking about air quality and how we're at the beginning of a huge change in awareness, especially in the city of Pittsburgh. So we were originally a steel town. Everybody knows the air quality story here. You used to see soot in black buildings, and if you wore a white shirt outside, you had to change by the middle of the day. So just because the air looks like it's better doesn't mean that it actually is. So Pittsburgh is still ranked in the top 5 worst air quality countries in the world. That report just came out like a month ago too. And the World Health Organization reports this on a global scale, saying that around 7 million people died because of air quality issues. So here's just a bit more stats about pollution-caused deaths. It's a huge issue. For sake of time, I'm not going to dwell on it. But here's a picture of Pittsburgh on a clean day. Here's a picture of Pittsburgh on a dirty day. So you can see that we certainly still have problems. And these photos were captured from one of our projects called Breathe Cam. We have a series of cameras set all across the city where we captured these from. So we're trying to address this problem in one of 2 ways right now. We have the Speck sensor, which is a tabletop indoor air quality monitor. It measures temperature, humidity, and fine particulate matter, which are the particles that you can't see, but they're so small that you breathe them in, they get into your lungs, and they distribute through your bloodstream. So depending on what you're breathing, and if you're standing next to industry or a road where there's a ton of diesel pollution, it can be especially harmful for you. The lab has also made a mobile app called Smell Pittsburgh, where you can actually report if your air smells bad. So if you walk outside and you smell sulfur, or you smell something gross, you can actually send a report on Smell Pittsburgh directly to the health department. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the community awareness that we do with Speck. We do have a website at specksensor.com. We sell this commercially all across the world. But as part of our Do Good, we've set up a library program where people who wouldn't normally be able to afford this device, it costs about $200, could rent it from the library just like you would rent a book. So you take it home for 3 weeks, monitor your indoor air quality, and see if you need to make any changes. This also has a Wi-Fi chip in it, so you can look at all of your data online or on your phone, and you can start to make changes depending on the history. This is the mobile app that we created, so you can see on the top, you can see your indoor device, but you can also compare outdoor air quality in different cities, so you get a real awareness about what's happening between you and some of your friends that might live elsewhere. You want to talk about Smell Pittsburgh?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sarah. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Tesota. I've worked on, as one of the programmers at CREATE Lab, I've worked on stuff for Speck Sensor as well as Smell Pittsburgh stuff. So we have the mobile app for Smell Pittsburgh, which, as Sarah was saying, you can, if you smell something outside, it seems like there's a event going on, you can report it. The report then gets sent directly to the Allegheny County Health Department. One way that I could see the Echo being useful for these sorts of things is just getting, we already have a system set up where you can report, and we store all this information in our database and display it on the app, she had the Speck Sensor app too. We could see this information just being accessed as opposed to from the mobile app, just easily asking Alexa for that information. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that was the next slide. Okay.
So this is our slide. We talked about how the Alexa could help. So right now we have the Speck set up. If you ask it, Alexa, ask Speck for the indoor air quality, it will report the air quality is good. I have a demo at the top if you want to see it. But as Mike mentioned, we could make Smell Pittsburgh really interactive. So say you come back in the house from being outside, you think it smells, you say, hey Alexa, I want to report a smell report of 5, something like that. So 5 is the absolute highest it can go.
Also,
so that would.
Sorry, just to see smell reports that might have happened recently, you could just ask Alexa, if there have been any small reports near your location.
Yeah, so basically we envision Alexa helping with the awareness part of this. But thank you. Do you want this one?
Yeah, oh, there you go. So your sensor, how is it different than like there are a lot of these indoor,
Sure.
Air monitoring quality sensors. Like what's different and unique about it?
So our particular sensor, hardware-wise, is not a great deal different on the inside, on like the sensor component side, than a lot of the other ones on the market. But what is different is that, actually this was my whole thesis, was basically we have come up with a machine learning algorithm as well as a very repeatable low-cost calibration process that basically brings all of these into spec so that they compare well against reference monitors, whereas most of the other ones, if you put it next to any other like large reference particle instrument, you'll see that there's significant disagreement and also disagreement between monitors of like types. So primarily where we stand out hardware-wise is A, the algorithm that produces the value that you see on the screen, B, the calibration, and C, a lot of the usability features that we've built into the device.
So it's basically a more accurate measure of the amount of particulate matter in the air.
That's correct. And we're actually also working on the second generation now, which will be able to measure ultrafine particles. And this is these are particles in the size range below a couple hundred nanometers. And we have some very promising test results so far. But as of now, no low-cost instrument can do that.
And is there like what's the actual value of being as accurate as you are over existing approaches? Like getting to better accuracy is great, but to what does it necessarily have value? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think there's differences in that question if you ask it like in the United States or in India or China, for example. But in my house, and we have a ton of stories, like success stories on our site, but you can tell because we're so accurate almost immediately when you start vacuuming or when you start cooking. And what I like about the accuracy of the Speck is that it shows you how long it takes for those particles to settle. So if you have an asthmatic child at home and you start vacuuming at 3 o'clock and they come home coughing, if you saw that it took 3 hours for those particles to kind of settle, you might rethink what time of day you would vacuum. Do you have more to say? Yeah.
Another thing is that if you have sensors that are internally consistent, as in the one that I buy is going to measure a certain set of particles the same way as one that this guy, Mike, buys. If we know that the monitors behave similarly, then that opens up the kind of social dimension of using these monitors, where I can compare the value in my house to the value in his house. And if it's significantly better, I might ask him, is he doing anything to keep the air inside his house cleaner? Or even just, is it something geographically that makes that region cleaner? And actually that's where the app can come in handy too, is to figure out, like, is it because of something he's doing, or am I just living in a dirty part of town? Yes.
Yes.
Do you think this is something people are going to be comfortable sharing?
So this is actually one thing where we've seen a variety of different responses. Some people are very protective over their data, and that makes sense because honestly, you can tell if someone is home or not based on their air quality data. That's why we make it very explicit that the user's data is something that belongs to the user. They can choose to set that as public, but they can also keep it as private, and that's fine with us.
Actually, I have a question. So what's the Alexa angle in your approach?
Yeah. Well, you can't see it anymore, but
So while she looks for that, basically, Right now, you can access the data on the device itself or on your phone, but basically with like natural language, you can actually access this data from anywhere in your house. You can be leaving the house, you've already put your shoes and your coat and your gloves on, and instead of having to pull out your phone or go back into the room, you can just say, hey Alexa, what's my air quality? Or, hey, what's the air quality in downtown Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Has anyone submitted smell reports?
Yeah.
And so are you guys selling this as a commercially available product?
Yeah, the both apps you can download right now, and you don't, yeah, for free. And the Speck app, it's fun to have your monitor connected, but you could use it without it and just compare cities. This is commercially available on specsensor.com. There's two sets right now. There's like a classic version that does not have a humidity sensor, and there's a more expensive one that does. So it's $149 and $199 are the price points there. And as Mike mentioned, we have a new one hopefully coming out later this year.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.